Grant, this is a poem called Grant Pops the Question. Grant was my right-hand man at my hunting camp for years, and he had a hard time deciding to get married. He liked single life a lot. Well, when he finally got married to Lara Sweeney, short for Laramie, they had the wedding, an outdoor gazebo there at the Nordic Inn in Alpine, and Grant came riding in on a horse, and behind him was his future father-in-law riding in on a horse with a double-barrel shotgun across his saddle, and behind that was a posse of 6 men, each of them dressed long-sleeve white shirts with the black garter pulling up the sleeves, you know, like card sharks, and the string bow ties, black hat and mustaches. A couple of them natural, some of them not quite. Anyway, the preacher got up there before he started the ceremony. He said, "Now, before I start this ceremony, Jonesy has a few words he wants to say." So I stood up there and I said, "Now, Grant Gertz was a hunting guide who really knowed how to hunt, from the deer up in the craggy peaks to the elk down on the front. A Wyoming man, a top-notch hand, to the saddle bred and born. Why, he could count an elk herd on the move and never miss a horn. But one day on a deer hunt, when the ground was white with frost, Grant got to acting kind of dreamy, and he got his hunters lost. Now, Jonesy knowed the symptoms. 'Grant, you ain't no good like this. I'll give you just 3 days to go and cure whatever's amiss.' Well, amiss is exactly what ailed him, for Grant had fell in love for sure with a gal named Lara Sweeney, mighty purty, sweet and pure. So now Grant rode many a mile, a-wrestling with the thought of sweet-some words to ask her with, the way a feller ought. 'I'm just a humble hunting guide, Miss Lara, if you please, that hereby asks your heart and hand down here on bended knees.' Now them words sounded mighty simple, thus rehearsed upon the trail. But when he got to Lara's house, them words all seemed to fail. 'Twas, 'I'm just a gumble gun, I'm just a cumble, I'm just a cumble.' Miss Lara, how's your pa and ma?" When it come to ask her, them words he couldn't chaw. He took her to a dance that night. The hoss she rode was his. "He's sure a dapple dandy," she says. "Well, yep," said Grant, "he is." They rode home late together. The moon was riding high, and Grant, he finally got to talking about them stars up in the sky. But alas, 'twas, "You know, that North Star'll guide hunters just like it does seagoing ships." Words of love and marriage just wouldn't cross his lips. So he spoke to her of the pony she was riding, and he said, "You'll note he's fancy-gaited, and don't never toss his head." "He surely is a dandy," she agreed, and heaves a sigh. Says Grant, "Well, you can have him, that is, maybe when I die." He was hoping she would savvy what he meant, or maybe guess, and give him that sweet answer that he longed for, namely, yes. But when they got to Lara's house, he was still a-wondering how he could ever pop the question, but he had to do it now, or wait and sweat and suffer till the hunt was done that fall, when maybe she'd be married, and he'd lose her after all. He put away her saddle, led his pony to the gate, then stammered, I best be drifting, ma'am. It's getting kinder late." Her eyes were bright as starlight, her lips as sweet as flowers. Says Grant, "Now, this year pony, Miss Lara, is he mine or is he ours?" "He's our pony, Grant," she whispered in a voice as soft as moss. Then Grant, he claims he kissed her. She claims he kissed the hoss.